Hi folks, welcome to my Bit Retro Journal. So today I'm going to do another video celebrating Macintosh, which is Macintosh from the 80s and 90s, the ones that use the Motorola 68000 chip. And you can see on the screen, there's my Mac. Well, it's not really a Mac because Macs didn't come with a black LCD monitor screen. They used to in the 90s have those nice beige form factors, and I really like that. Ironically, I am running this on the Mac. I'm running this on a iMac 2011, but it's running Windows. And not only is it running Windows, but I'm running this emulator on a Windows in the Windows XP mode, Windows Virtual PC. So Basilisk Mac emulator is running on a Windows XP emulator, which is running on my iMac. So we have a little bit of inception. But on top of that, I want to talk today about running emulators on a 68K Mac. So I'll be running an emulator on an emulator on an emulator on my Windows machine. Just because I don't own a Mac anymore. And I kind of want to think about, well, should I try to get one again? You know, My first Mac was a Mac IIsi, and I had that machine for almost 10 years, early 90s to early 2000s. And, you know, I didn't keep it. I don't know. I have a nostalgic feeling about having owned it, but I don't really have a nostalgic feeling about wanting to bring it back. I guess it was just very big and bulky. It had a big monitor. I also had, because I was working for a company that was developing Mac software, and for a while I had a Mac IIsi, and it might have been an LC2, and those have a nice small form factor, so I could see myself perhaps picking up an LC or LC2 just so I actually have a real Mac, so that maybe in 2023, if I'm still doing hopefully YouTube videos and I'll celebrate Macintosh, then I could do it on a real Macintosh, because as much as emulation is great, and you'll see today about emulation that we'll be doing on the 60K Mac, it's also nice to have the real hardware, right? So I'm kind of in both worlds. I remember when I was working for the company that had me bring home the LC or LC2, I think the first computer I got at work was either, I think it might have been an SE, which was a hand-me-down from a colleague, and then because we were getting into serious Mac development, I got an SE30, and I loved an SE30. And this is back before we had a lot of color monitors. There weren't that many color options. And wow, the SE30 was just, I remember I wanted one at home because it was nice and compact. With the Macs, you got used to the black and white monitors rather quickly. You just accepted it. It was funny. But, and so then the SE30, but when I finally got my own, I got a Mac IIsi because, man, the color monitor the color was just kind of nice. And it's exactly the color that you see here on the screen. I remember then at work, I forget what we upgraded to, but I did finally get a color Mac. But I remember the Mac that I envied the most was a Mac IIFX. It was a big beast, but I think it cost $10,000. But for whatever reason, I just dreamt of having that machine, and I could run. Actually, I could put AUX, which was a Unix version, on that, and have my own Unix server. And thought that would have been the coolest thing. I never got one, and I'm sure you can get them now for cheaper than $10,000. But I remember they were $10,000. But the specs on that, and back in the 90s, I was really into the Macintosh, and every year you would come up with a new set of models and the design and the specs. It was really cool, and it was a fun time to be in computers. Again, in more the modern era. Again, in the 80s and early 90s, it was more slim pickings, but it was also fun. You know, when I got my first computer, the Sinclair 1000, or when I was in school and I got to play with an Amiga 1000 for a year. Or then right after school, I got the QL, got to work with that. While at the same time, this was at home, while at the same time at work, I got a Mac ISE, and then an SE30, and finally upgraded at home from this to a Mac IIsi. So lots of history with me and the Macintoshes, and it was a fun time. So what I wanted to talk to you today about is, well, I actually ran some emulators on the Macintosh back then. I actually ran one, which was SoftWindows by Insignia, and so I just wanted to share that experience with you. And then also running a QL emulator. I didn't actually run a QL emulator on my Mac IIsi, and the reason why is because I still had the QL and I was kind of doing both for a while. And then towards the latter part of the 90s, I sort of put this on the shelf, literally still be able to plug it in, and I was focused more on the Mac. And then because I was going back to school to get a higher degree, and it wasn't until the early 2000s when I got that IBM ThinkPad that I got the QLay emulator on that. So that I needed a little bit of time between using this and wanting to emulate this. Whereas with the mid 90s, actually having a Windows machine was less about running an old computer and more about being able to run both a Mac and a Windows at the same time. So that's what I want to show you today. So that's a lot of information I'm throwing out at you, but just to give you a little bit of background on my Mac experience. But I just wanted to kind of go through these two emulators. I'm going to place the camera in front. I'm going to show two emulators, Q-emulator and SoftWindows. So let's start with this first. So this, they did have a version of this, version 1 I think came out, and if you look at this header file, you can see that it says 1995. So they did have an early version that came out then. Although this one, as I started up, you'll see that it was actually 2004 was the last version for this, for the 68K Mac. But let's start her up, and it does that. So I gotta use the keyboard, and yeah. So here you can actually, so I've added this little directory, and you'll see that select CX. So if I do a dir mdv1, you'll see that I have some stuff on here. And so it turns out that I can't have directly an executable because executables have header information in the sectors which only work on microdrives. And since this is sitting on the Mac file system, so what I've done is I have this arc, which is an archive, like a compressed archive, that my ZX48K has been compressed to it, it's like 28K or so. And then the arc program is the one that uncompresses it, except it is also in a sort of self-extracting basic format. It's small, it's like 3K in size. I could have done the same thing with ZX, my ZX simulator, but the basic would have been huge. So I instead have this small arc program, and I'll show you how this works. So I'm going to load mdv1 arc bass, and if I list it, you'll see that it's going to go by fast after it loads it. I think that as I do this, just to explore, it does have a speed function up here, and I'm going original QL speed. That's why. So it takes a little bit of time. And that's frequency, keyboard, QL mode. Okay, yeah. Display, proportional, redraw display, fixed colors. I'm not going to try all these things out. Turn sound off. So it's gonna, what I can do, just to get through this a little faster, is I can increase speed, so I can go full speed. So this is gonna run a little faster, and so if I go dir mdv1, oh, right, I just loaded it, and if you list it, you can see that it just has mostly data statements. And if I ran this at the original speed, might make it easy to see what I have. So it goes a little slower. But it's a little basic program at the top, and then just a lot of data statements. And what this does is when I run this, and so I'm going to keep it at full speed because it's faster. So it basically generates this arc executable, and then I can save it. exe. Now when I look at the directory, you can see that I actually have arc exe, which I can run. I have to run it in mode 4. Exec mdv1 arc exe, and it's written in German, so it has this thing in German. It says, do you want to begin, shrink, expand? So I'm going to go, so I'm going to say mdv1 zx arc mdv1, and it's going to go and say, do you want to, yes, and it's going to write the data, and as soon as it's done I can escape, and MDV1, and now you can see I have the ZX emulator. So if I exec MDV1 ZX, it starts it up right away. And again, multitasking, so I can go between my emulator and the prompt, and it's preemptive versus the Macintosh currently is running as System 7.5, which is from 95, which is still cooperative multitasking. But I can see what's on my microdrive, and I've got a bunch of programs. So one is load MDV1 banner bass, and if I run it, 3, you can see that it's going full speed, which is pretty fast. Much more exciting now. If I put it in original speed mode, you'll see that it's a bit more deliberate, and that's sort of how fast the ZX81 actually runs. And so, again, my aim was to write the ZX simulator at sort of on an unexpanded QL running original ZX81 speed. And I've come pretty close to it. I still haven't finished it, and that's been a long overdue project. Too many other things going on. But what's interesting is, so I have my ZX81 emulator, ROM emulator, running on the QL emulator, running on Basilisk, which is an emulator for the Mac, running on Windows XP emulator, running on my Windows machine. Now, the reason I have Basilisk running Windows XP is so that I can throttle it down with a program called WinThrottle so that it's not running as fast. Because if I run this directly on my Windows machine, it's just going to run too fast. And there's no way to set the speed setting in Basilisk. That's one of its shortcomings. But again, much more fun to look at this at full speed because, all right, and so I'm going to just keep going back and forth between full speed and original speed. So MDV1 ball bass, run speed 1. You can see this is just going to kind of bounce around. If I go and put an original speed, then it has this nice trolling factor that you can see. If you go full speed, it goes fast, but I can also slow it down, so S for slow. And it basically just makes the ball troll more in its place. And I can speed it up again with F. Again, these are all little demo programs I wrote for the ZX emulator. But the most fun one is load MDV1 Elite. So that's my attempt to write the Elite game for the ZX81. And so if I run it, I can change configure, and I want to say fire space, left, right. Up is move the joystick back, and down move the joystick forward. And so now it's running. You can see it goes really fast, and it's really hard to play that way. But if I go and put it in original QL, now it actually runs more realistically. And the aim of this is to actually have this sort of appear as if you're chasing an enemy. They're far away, and you're just trying to get your scope in. So you have to have a little bit of imagination, but it works pretty well in that mode, and it can seem frustrating, but also fun if you. Again, the only thing is just having fun. Right now, you know, if you shoot 14 pirates, then you win. But what I really want to do is just have the right. So what happened is the little pirate only exists for so long before they disappear. And let's see, here's one. Let's see if I can actually, yeah, so it takes a little bit of patience, but I'm getting the pirate in sight. You can see that there's a star field that's going, gives you a little bit of a, that actually looks better when you're in faster mode, but you know, in this original mode, it's a little bit frustrating, but you just have to sort of think about being in the vastness of space, and you know, when you're moving things, it's not like Star Trek where the stars kind of blast by you. It's really more trying to be more realistic, I guess. And again, it's more out of necessity because I wasn't able to speed this up any further with just doing it in pure basic. What I do want to do is that there is a compiler for ZX81. I want to compile it to see if I can actually have it be more, you know, just a couple of times faster is better. But in the full speed for this emulator, it's too fast and it's unplayable. But just slightly faster, I think it would be playable. But this is playable. I've played it actually quite a lot in testing. So I can want to go up again. Just want to get them in your sights. And see, the enemy does wiggle around. And so you have to do, get him in your sights. Here you go. He's going to come in sight. And there, perfect sight. So now you're going to just shoot him. Boom, shoot him again. If he doesn't stay around, move around and shoot him again. And at one point you get to destroy him. There we go, see? And you get your ammo and shield back, and you get some energy as well. So anyway, that's the ZX simulator running Elite, so it's kind of fun. But yeah, pretty compatible emulator. Again, I would imagine the 1995 one might have had a bit more issues, but yeah, fun. So that's the QL emulator. Again, I didn't have one for my Mac IIsi. I probably got the other one called QLay, which I still use to this day on my IBM ThinkPad when I upgraded in the early 2000s. I didn't need an emulator for the Mac because I was still using my QL, and then maybe towards the latter part of the 90s, I put my QL on the shelf, literally, and used the Mac more, and then kind of wanted to get back into the QL in the early 90s for a bit, and that's why I found the QLay emulator. All right, so let me do this now. I'm gonna quit this, and what I want to do next is go to SoftWindows. So I did have this for my Mac IIsi, and so this is SoftWindows by Insignia, and this is a registered version, and there we go, DOS running. Look at that, and so you just type simply win. And I've already set up the sort of leafy background because that was my favorite background. And yeah, so it's got, I did try to play with the floppy, and even though the Mac can deal with the floppy, I could not get it to work. Also notice that the Insignia emulator is kind of screwing with the color on the Mac, somehow with the color palette. But so you've got, you know, clipboard, MS-DOS prompt, your README, your file manager, which gives you ability to take a look at, and E. I did load Wolfenstein 3D, so I have that on E. Interestingly enough, and can I close this? Close. Yeah, so that works. And so what else do I have? There's applications. Yeah, you got Microsoft, and they're just going to put you in the you know, into I'll do one of them, Microsoft Editor. It just kind of puts you in this block mode. And what you need to do is, I think you need to emulate the mouse. There we go. And now I can hopefully exit out of that. And I'm back here. Good. So yeah, it's a little bit of pain. So the interface, maybe it's because I'm emulating this. So I'm going to close that. There's nothing in startup. Oh, there's smart copy. Close. And we have accessories. So we have paintbrush. I still use that to this day. So it has boom. I can choose color. I think this is the fill one. Yep. I can do text in green. Can I make text larger? Fonts. So maybe, oh, it doesn't let me do terminal. Wow, it's a very limiting fonts. What do we have? Arial. There we go. There we go. I want 18 points. Regular is fine. Okay. Hello. Or maybe you do want to bold it. Oh, it's fine. So then I can take that and move that in here. There we go. Look at that. Yep. So I still use paintbrush quite a bit. Do they have transparent options? Maybe that's brush shapes, get color, omit picture format. Yeah. And what can you save it as? Bitmap. A different variety of bitmap, but that's about it. PCX. Yep. So I use PNG. I guess I didn't have that back then. So let's quit. Exit. And no, I'm not going to save the image. I guess a terminal problem. I use Notepad a lot still. It's just a nice plain text editor. So much better than a modern Mac that just does too many crappy things with smart text editing. It's got your clock, which is, I'm sure you can have analog. Yep, everybody remembers that. Close, and let's see what else we've got. Calculator, which I still use. That was disappointing because it's not really, I mean, they could have done more with making this a bit nicer looking and some coloring instead of just having, yeah, so close that up. Sound recorder, yeah, it's not going to be able to do that, but so you could record some sound. I think this is a macro recorder. Yep. And then there was a media player, so the beginnings of, but only audio. Yeah, so cool stuff. Oh, yeah, and write is sort of your WordPad. You could do all sorts of Macintosh. Yay! So I want to bold it. Oh, and you can go enlarge. I dare not use key combinations because it's probably not. And then is there a center? Paragraph centered. It's a little off. Yeah, we're doing Macintosh. Can we make it bigger? Enlarge. There we go. And keep enlarging. That's it. Oh, and can we? Can we do fancy things with fonts? Fonts. Only no. I thought maybe you could do like shadow. But okay, so close, and we're not going to save anything. Okay, so I think the final thing we got, of course, is games, and it's got Minesweeper, beginner mode, expert. Yeah. So, of course, there you go. So we know that's empty. So frustrating. It's already there. So, God, there's I'm going to say that. Oh, wow. Okay. So there's two. There's one here. So, oh man, this is just doesn't give you hope. 1, 2. Could be that one. There's one. Yeah. So not clear. Yep. Okay. I'm just gonna. Yeah. Don't have the patience for these games. Close that up. So, and then solitaire, of course, you've got, I think you can choose different backgrounds. Deck, fishies. It's funny, some of these still persist today, like the, I think this robot image you can actually have as your avatar on your Windows, at least Windows 7. All right, so that's what we have. So there's still one more game, close, which is, and let's see if it can be run in, so under main, file manager, can we go under E and run Wolfenstein? Look at that, we can, yay. Press a key, PG-13. Now again, it's messing up the rest of the color, but I'm fine with that. New game, has sound. Do that, and here we go. Open that up. How do you fire? Oh, okay. So you hit. Oh, I see. I can use the mouse. I see. And then just open it up. There's food. Oh, someone's shooting at me. I need to use it. Oh, I see. So he's right there, and I can shoot him. Oh. So the control, yeah. So you have to use the mouse, I guess, to shoot it. I couldn't figure out without the key. I was using space and arrow, and then the mouse, and it was kind of a mess. But yeah, so you can play Wolfenstein. Look at that. That's pretty cool. So get out of this. Yeah, that is. Yes, I want to quit. And we're back. Look at that. So yeah, Windows 3.1. Again, it was useful in the day because you wanted to be able to maybe run some Windows software. I don't think I ever ran Windows 95 on my SI, but I definitely had this one running, so it was pretty cool. And mostly DOS applications. I don't think I used Windows all that much. Yeah, so pretty cool software that let me enjoy some PC stuff when I only had a Mac. All right, I'm going to end there. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next week.